Admiral Vextel stood in the command center of the massive warship Eternal Dominion. His forearms moved quickly across the control panels as warning lights flashed red throughout the bridge. The ship's sensors had picked up something impossible, something that should not exist in this part of space. "Report," Vextel ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. Lieutenant Kixana looked up from her station, her large black eyes wide with confusion. "Sir, we have detected a human battleship approximately 200,000 kilometers away. The ship appears to be alone and showing minimal energy signatures." Vextel's mandibles clicked together in disbelief. Humans in deep Empire space? It was impossible. The Zephyrian Empire had crushed the human resistance 3 years ago. Earth was under their control. The remaining human fleets were scattered and contained in distant refugee sectors, far from the Empire's core worlds. "Are you certain it's human?" Vextel asked, moving to the main display screen. "Yes, sir. The ship's design matches their old battleship class. Our computers identify it as approximately 300 meters long. Small by our standards, but it appears to be heavily armed for its size." Vextel studied the image on the screen. The human ship looked old and beaten. Its hull showed clear signs of battle damage. Dark scorch marks covered its sides where enemy weapons had struck. Yet somehow this ancient vessel had traveled deep into Empire territory without being detected. "How did it get here?" Vextel demanded. "We have 7 layers of sensor networks between here and human space. Nothing should be able to pass through undetected." "Unknown, sir," Kixana replied. "The ship appears to have been drifting with minimal power. It's possible our sensors missed it because of its low energy output." The Admiral walked closer to the display. The human ship was called the UES Defiance. Even the name irritated him. Humans always chose such aggressive names for their vessels, as if they could make up for their technological weaknesses with bold words. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through," Vextel ordered. The screen flickered and the image of a human female appeared. She wore a dark blue uniform with several metal badges on her chest. Her hair was short and gray, and her face showed the lines of someone who had seen many battles. But her eyes were calm and steady as she looked directly at Vextel. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force," she said in clear galactic standard language. "I request permission to speak with your commanding officer." Vextel stepped forward so she could see him. "I am Admiral Vextel of the Imperial Navy. You are in violation of Empire space, human. Surrender your vessel immediately." Captain Vasquez smiled slightly. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Admiral. I've traveled too far to turn back now. I've come here to talk." "Talk?" Vextel's mandibles clicked again. "You have nothing we wish to hear. Your people are defeated. Your resistance is broken."
"What could you possibly have to say?"
"More than you might think," Vasquez replied. "But I prefer to discuss such matters in person. I'm willing to come aboard your ship if you guarantee safe passage." The request surprised Vextel. Humans were known for their bravery, but this seemed like suicide. One human against an entire Imperial battle fleet. "You would surrender yourself?" he asked. "I would come aboard to talk," Vasquez corrected. "There's a difference." Vextel considered the options. The human ship was clearly outgunned and outnumbered. Even if this was some kind of trap, what could one small vessel do against his fleet? His ship alone was 3 times larger than the human battleship. "Very well," he decided. "You may come aboard, but any attempt at treachery will result in the immediate destruction of your ship." "Understood," Vasquez said. "I'll launch a shuttle in 10 minutes." The transmission ended, leaving Vextel staring at the blank screen. Something about this situation felt wrong. Humans didn't simply appear in deep Empire space. They didn't casually request meetings with Imperial admirals, and they certainly didn't smile while doing it. "Sir," Lieutenant Kixana called out, "should we alert Imperial Command about this situation?" "Not yet," Vextel replied. "Let's hear what this human has to say first. It might be interesting." 20 minutes later, Captain Vasquez walked into the conference room aboard the Eternal Dominion. She was smaller than most humans Vextel had seen, but she moved with confidence. 2 Imperial guards flanked her, their weapons ready but not pointed directly at her. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Vasquez said as she took a seat across from the Admiral. "Explain how you came to be in Empire space," Vextel demanded without ceremony. Vasquez leaned back in her chair. "My crew and I have been traveling for 2 years. We've crossed through 12 different star systems to reach this location. Impossible. Our sensor networks would have detected you. Your sensor networks are very good, Vasquez agreed, but they're designed to detect large fleets and invasion forces. A single ship, running silent and using specific routes, can sometimes slip through. Vextal studied her face. She was telling the truth, but not the whole truth. What routes? Trade routes. Shipping lanes. Places where single ships travel regularly. We studied your Empire's patterns for a long time before making this journey. The Admiral felt a cold sensation in his stomach. If humans had been studying Empire shipping patterns, what else had they learned? Why are you here? He asked. To deliver a message, Vasquez replied, and to give you fair warning. Warning? About what? Vasquez's expression became serious. You defeated our fleets 3 years ago. You occupied our worlds. You thought the war was over. But you made one crucial mistake, which was, you assumed that because we lost the battles, we stopped learning. Before Vextal could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed as officers rushed to their stations. Lieutenant Kixana's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, we have multiple contacts decloaking throughout the sector. Sir, there are human ships everywhere. Vextal stared at Vasquez, who remained calm in her chair despite the chaos around them. She looked at her watch and nodded slightly. Right on time, she said quietly. What have you done? Vextal demanded. Exactly what I said I would do, Vasquez replied. I came here to talk, but I also came here to show you that the war isn't over. It just moved to a different phase. The Admiral rushed to the nearest display screen. What he saw made his blood freeze. Dozens of human ships were appearing throughout Empire space, not just in this sector but across multiple star systems. His communication officers were receiving reports from Imperial bases across the Empire. Human vessels were decloaking near major installations, military bases, and even the capital world itself. How? Vextal whispered. We've had 3 years to study your technology, Vasquez explained. 3 years to learn from the equipment you left behind on our worlds. 3 years to understand how your empire really works. She stood up slowly, her guards tensing but not interfering. We didn't come here to surrender, Admiral. We came here to graduate. Captain Elena Vasquez sat calmly in the interrogation chamber aboard the Eternal Dominion. The room was designed to intimidate prisoners, with harsh lighting and walls that seemed to close in around the single chair in the center. But Vasquez showed no signs of fear. She had seen worse places during the war. Admiral Vextal paced around her, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. Tell me about your journey. How did one human ship travel through Empire space undetected? Vasquez looked up at him with steady eyes. It wasn't easy. When Earth fell 3 years ago, most people thought the war was over. But a few of us knew better. We knew that losing battles doesn't mean losing the war. She paused, remembering those dark days after the surrender. My ship, the Defiance, was damaged in the final battle over Luna. We limped away with the other surviving vessels. Most of the fleet went to the refugee sectors as ordered. But I had a different idea, which was to learn everything we could about our enemies. Vextal stopped pacing. Explain. Vasquez began to tell her story. After the fall of Earth, she had gathered a crew of volunteers. Engineers, pilots, soldiers who refused to accept defeat. They had spent months in the outer systems, studying wreckage from Imperial ships destroyed during the war. Your people are very good at building things, she said, but you're not very good at cleaning up after battles. You left a lot of useful debris behind. The human crew had worked in secret, hidden in asteroid fields and dead systems where Imperial patrols rarely went. They salvaged everything they could find. Computer cores, navigation systems, communication equipment, even pieces of armor plating. We reverse-engineered everything, Vasquez continued. Your computer codes, your sensor frequencies, your communication protocols. It took us 8 months just to understand how your navigation systems work. Vextal felt uncomfortable. The Empire had procedures for cleaning up battle sites, but resources were often needed elsewhere. The idea that humans had been systematically studying Imperial technology was disturbing. But knowledge wasn't enough, Vasquez said. We needed to test it. So we began making short trips into Empire space. Just a few light years at first, then deeper as we learned more. She described how they had developed new tactics. The Defiance would enter a system running silent with minimal power output. They used captured Imperial identification codes to masquerade as cargo ships when questioned. They studied patrol routes and learned to time their movements perfectly. Your empire is very large, she explained, and large empires have patterns. Ships move on schedules. Patrols follow the same routes. Communications happen at predictable times. Once we understood the patterns, we could move between them. The Admiral realized she was describing something impossible. You're telling me that one ship spent 2 years mapping our entire defense network? Not just one ship, Vasquez said with a slight smile. And not just mapping. Before Vextal could ask what she meant, she continued her story. The human crew hadn't just been learning Imperial technology. They had been improving it. Your people build things to work efficiently, she said, but humans build things to work in ways you never expect. We took your sensor systems and made them better. We took your cloaking technology and made it smaller. We took your weapons and made them more accurate. She described how human engineers had combined Imperial technology with their own innovative thinking. They created hybrid systems that performed better than the originals. Imperial sensors designed to detect large fleets couldn't track their modified ships. Imperial communication systems couldn't decode their encrypted messages. But the most important thing we learned, Vasquez said, was that your empire's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness, which is predictability. Your empire runs like a machine. Everything has rules and procedures. Everything follows patterns. That makes you very efficient, but it also makes you vulnerable to people who don't follow the same rules. Vextal was beginning to understand the scope of what she was describing. You've been preparing for another war. No, Vasquez corrected. We've been preparing to end the war properly. She explained that the Defiance hadn't been working alone. While Imperial forces focused on the known refugee fleets, other human ships had been active throughout the galaxy. Underground shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Research stations disguised as mining operations. Supply networks that moved resources through abandoned systems. The Empire made an important mistake, she said. You assumed that because you defeated our military, you had defeated our people. But humans don't give up easily. We adapt. The Admiral felt a growing sense of dread. How many ships? Enough, Vasquez replied simply. She described how the human resistance had grown in secret. Not the desperate, disorganized resistance the Empire expected, but a careful, planned operation. They had used Imperial databases to identify weak points in the defense network. They had infiltrated communication systems to monitor Imperial fleet movements. They had even placed people in key positions throughout the Empire. Your people are very trusting, she said. Humans look like many other species when we wear the right clothes, and we're very good at learning languages. Vextal realized that everything he thought he knew about the post-war situation was wrong. The Empire believed they were facing scattered refugees. Instead, they had been infiltrated by an organized resistance network. The ships that are decloaking right now, he said slowly. This was all planned. For 18 months, Vasquez confirmed. Every ship, every position, every timing sequence. We've been watching your fleet movements and waiting for the right moment. What do you want? Before she could answer, the lights in the room flickered. Emergency power systems activated as the main power grid shut down. In the distance, Vextal could hear officers shouting orders and running through the corridors. Vasquez checked her watch again. That would be phase 2 of our demonstration. What have you done to my ship? Nothing permanent, she assured him. But we needed to show you that we understand your technology better than you think we do. The power will come back on in exactly 3 minutes. She stood up slowly, and the Admiral noticed that her guards were no longer pointing their weapons at her. In fact, they looked confused and uncertain. The thing about studying your enemy for 3 years, Vasquez said, is that you learn all their weaknesses. You learn how to disable their ships without firing a shot. You learn how to jam their communications. You learn how to make their own security systems work against them. The lights came back on exactly 3 minutes later, just as she had predicted. We didn't come here to fight another war, Admiral, she said. We came here to show you that fighting us again would be a very bad idea. We've learned everything we need to know about your empire. The question is, what are you going to do with that information? Admiral Vextal rushed back to the command bridge, leaving Captain Vasquez under guard in the conference room. The scene that greeted him was chaos. Officers ran between stations while alarms blared throughout the ship. The main display screen showed tactical information that made his stomach turn cold. Report, he shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Kixana looked up from her station, her face pale with shock. Sir, we have confirmed contacts throughout Empire space. 67 human vessels have appeared simultaneously across 14 different star systems. Vextal stared at the display. Red icons marked human ship positions across a map of the Empire's core territory. They weren't just in this sector anymore. Human ships had appeared near military bases, orbital shipyards, and major population centers. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. The ships appear to be using some kind of advanced cloaking technology. Our sensors couldn't detect them until they powered up their main systems." Communication requests flooded in from across the Empire. Imperial bases were reporting human ships appearing without warning. Most disturbing of all, the humans weren't attacking. They were just sitting there as if waiting for something. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're receiving reports from the capital system. A human battleship has appeared directly above Zephyr Prime." Vextal felt his legs grow weak. The capital world was the most heavily defended planet in the Empire. 12 orbital defense platforms surrounded it, along with a permanent fleet of 50 warships. Nothing should be able to approach undetected. "What kind of battleship?" he asked. "Unknown class, sir. It's larger than the vessel we detected here, but our long-range sensors can't get detailed readings." The ship appeared inside the orbital defense grid. The Admiral realized the scope of what was happening. This wasn't a random attack or a desperate strike by human refugees. This was a coordinated operation that had been planned for months, possibly years. "Open a channel to Imperial Command," he ordered, while his communications officer worked to establish contact. Vextal studied the tactical display more carefully. The human ships weren't positioned randomly. They had appeared at key strategic locations throughout the Empire. Military shipyards, communication centers, major trade routes. Whoever planned this operation understood Imperial military doctrine very well. "Sir, I have Admiral Zixara from Imperial Command." The face of the Empire's highest military commander appeared on the screen. Admiral Zixara looked as shocked and confused as Vextal felt. "Vextal, what is your situation?" Zixara demanded. "We have one human battleship in our sector, sir. The captain is aboard my ship. She claims this is some kind of demonstration." "Demonstration?" Zixara's mandibles clicked rapidly. "We have human ships throughout the Empire. They appeared simultaneously at 1430 Imperial Standard Time. Our analysts believe this required coordination across hundreds of light years." Vextal felt a chill run through his body. Coordinating fleet movements across such distances required advanced communication technology and precise timing. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that the Empire's own military would struggle to match. "Have any of them attacked?" he asked. "No. That's what makes this so disturbing. They're just sitting there broadcasting the same message on all frequencies." "What message?" Before Zixara could answer, Lieutenant Kixana interrupted. "Sir, the human ships are all transmitting simultaneously." "Put it through," Vextal ordered. The transmission came through clearly on all communication channels. It was Captain Vasquez's voice, but the message was being broadcast by every human ship in Empire space at the same time. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force, speaking for the Free Human Alliance. We are transmitting this message from 67 locations throughout the Zephyrian Empire. We have not come here to attack or invade. We have come to deliver a message." The transmission paused, and Vextal realized that millions of Imperial citizens across dozens of worlds were hearing these words. 3 years ago, your Empire conquered our worlds and defeated our fleets. You believed this meant the end of human resistance. You were wrong. We have spent these 3 years learning everything we could about your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses." Another pause. Vextal could imagine the panic spreading through Imperial Command as they realized the implications. "The ships you see before you represent the graduation of the human race. We have taken your technology and improved it. We have studied your empire and learned to move through it at will. We have demonstrated that your most secure systems can be penetrated, and your most advanced defenses can be bypassed." The Admiral looked at the tactical display again. The human ships weren't using standard Imperial designs. They were smaller than typical battleships, but their energy signatures suggested they carried more powerful weapons than their size should allow. "We do not wish to continue this war," the transmission continued, "but we will not accept the permanent occupation of our worlds. Therefore, we give you this ultimatum. Withdraw all Imperial forces from human systems within 72 standard hours. Release all human prisoners and slaves. Return all captured human territory to our control." Vextal exchanged glances with his officers. The demands were impossible. The Empire never negotiated with defeated enemies. They never retreated from conquered territory. If you refuse these terms, Vasquez's voice continued, we will demonstrate additional capabilities that we have developed during our 3 years of study. We have learned not just how to build ships that can penetrate your defenses, but how to disable your infrastructure, disrupt your communications, and eliminate your ability to maintain control over conquered territories. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in complete silence. Every officer stared at their stations, trying to process what they had just heard. Sir, Lieutenant Kixana said quietly, we're receiving similar reports from across the Empire. The humans have appeared near every major military installation we have. Admiral Zixara's voice crackled over the communication system. Vextal returned to the capital immediately. Bring the human captain with you. The Emperor wants to hear what she has to say. Understood, sir. As Vextal prepared to leave the bridge, another alarm sounded. This time it wasn't a detection alarm. It was a priority communication from the mining world of Kelos 3. Sir, the communications officer reported, Kelos 3 is reporting that the human ships in their system have disabled their orbital defense platforms. No weapons were fired. The platforms just stopped working. Vextal felt his confidence crumbling. The humans weren't just threatening to demonstrate their capabilities. They were already doing it. Any casualties? He asked. None reported, sir. The platforms are intact, just completely non-functional. The Admiral realized that the Empire was facing something they had never encountered before. An enemy that could appear anywhere without warning, disable their defenses without firing a shot, and coordinate complex operations across vast distances. Most disturbing of all, these humans seemed to understand Imperial technology better than the Empire did itself. Set course for the capital, he ordered. Maximum speed. As the Eternal Dominion turned toward home, Vextal wondered if they were already too late to prevent whatever the humans planned to do next. Emperor Thaxmore stood in the center of the Imperial War Council chambers, his massive form towering over the holographic display that showed the current crisis. The ruler of the Zephyrian Empire had not slept in 36 hours. Red indicators marked human ship positions throughout his territory, and new reports arrived every few minutes. How many ships do we estimate they have? The Emperor asked his assembled military leaders. General Kolneth, commander of Imperial Ground Forces, stepped forward. Our current count shows 67 confirmed vessels, Majesty. However, intelligence suggests there may be more that remain cloaked. 67 ships, the Emperor repeated slowly. 3 years ago, we destroyed over 300 human vessels and thought we had broken their military completely. Where did these ships come from? Admiral Zixara activated a section of the holographic display. Our analysis suggests these are not the same designs we fought during the war. These ships appear to be hybrid constructions, combining captured Imperial technology with human engineering. The Emperor studied the ship designs shown on the display. They were smaller than standard Imperial battleships, but their energy signatures suggested they were far more advanced than anything humans had possessed during the original war. You're telling me, the Emperor said carefully, that in 3 years the humans not only rebuilt their fleet but improved upon our technology? That appears to be the case, Majesty, Admiral Zixara replied reluctantly. General Kolneth moved closer to the display. With respect, Majesty, 67 ships cannot threaten the entire Empire. We have over 2,000 vessels in our active fleet. I recommend immediate retaliation against all human positions. And what of their demonstrated capabilities? Asked Admiral Zixara. They have shown they can appear anywhere in our territory without detection. They disabled the orbital platforms at Kelos 3 without firing a single shot. They somehow penetrated the capital system's defenses. The Emperor walked around the display, studying the ship positions. The humans had chosen their locations carefully. They weren't positioned to attack major targets. Instead, they sat near key infrastructure points where they could cause maximum disruption with minimal force. What do our intelligence reports tell us about human activities in the refugee sectors? He asked. Intelligence Director Velmoth activated another section of the display. Our monitoring of the refugee sector shows normal activity, Majesty. The human populations there appear to be engaged in agriculture and basic manufacturing. We detected no military ship construction. Then where were these vessels built? Unknown, Majesty. Our analysis suggests they were constructed in locations outside our normal surveillance areas. The Emperor felt a growing sense of unease. The Zephyrian Empire controlled nearly 1/4 of the galaxy. They had the most advanced sensor networks and the largest intelligence operation in known space. The idea that humans had built an entire fleet without detection was deeply disturbing. "Show me the details." Of their ultimatum again, he ordered. The recording of Captain Vasquez's transmission played on the main speakers. Every council member had heard it multiple times, but the Emperor wanted to analyze every word. "Withdraw all Imperial forces from human systems within 72 hours, the recording said. "Release all human prisoners and slaves. Return all captured human territory to our control." General Kolneth stepped forward aggressively. "Majesty, the Empire cannot negotiate with defeated enemies. If we give in to human demands, every conquered species will expect the same treatment." "And if we refuse?" the Emperor asked. "Then we crush them," Kolneth replied. 67 ships cannot stand against the full might of the Imperial Navy." Admiral Zixara looked uncomfortable. "General, I must point out that these humans have demonstrated capabilities we don't fully understand. They appeared simultaneously across 14 star systems. That requires coordination technology superior to our own." "Technology they stole from us," Kolneth argued. "Technology they improved," Zixara corrected. "Our ships cannot coordinate actions across such distances with that precision." The Emperor considered both arguments. The Empire's reputation depended on never showing weakness, but their military doctrine also emphasized understanding enemy capabilities before engaging. "What other demonstrations have they made?" he asked. Director Velmoth activated another display. "In the past 12 hours, human ships have conducted what appear to be test operations at 17 different locations. They have disabled defense platforms, jammed communication networks, and infiltrated secure computer systems. In every case, they accomplish their objectives without causing casualties?" "Without casualties?" The Emperor was surprised. "None reported, Majesty. The humans appear to be making a deliberate effort to avoid harming Imperial personnel." General Kolneth waved dismissively. "Propaganda. They want us to believe they're more capable than they actually are." "Or," Admiral Zixara suggested, "they're demonstrating that they could cause significant damage if they chose to, but prefer not to." The Emperor studied the tactical data more carefully. The human operations showed a level of precision and restraint that impressed him despite his anger. Disabling orbital platforms without destroying them required sophisticated technology and careful planning. Jamming communications without causing permanent damage showed both capability and discipline. "How long until the 72-hour deadline?" he asked. 31 hours, Majesty," Director Velmoth replied. "And our fleet positions?" Admiral Zixara highlighted Imperial ship locations on the display. "We have significant forces within striking distance of most human positions. However, we cannot coordinate a simultaneous attack on all human ships. They chose their positions too well." The Emperor realized the tactical problem. If the Imperial fleet moved against some human ships, the others could strike at undefended targets. The humans had created a situation where the Empire couldn't use their numerical advantage effectively. "What about the ship above our capital?" he asked. "The UES Retribution remains in position above Zephyr Prime," Admiral Zixara reported. "It has made no aggressive moves, but its presence demonstrates that our most secure system can be penetrated." The Emperor felt a chill run through his body. If humans could place a battleship above the capital world, they could target any location in the Empire. The implications for Imperial security were staggering. "Majesty," General Kolneth said urgently, "every hour we delay shows weakness. Our subject species are watching. If we appear unable to deal with a human threat, rebellions could start throughout the Empire." The Emperor knew Kolneth was right about the political implications, but Admiral Zixara was also right about the military risks. The Empire was facing an enemy they didn't fully understand. "What do we know about this Captain Vasquez?" he asked. "She commanded a battleship during the original war," Director Velmoth replied. "Her ship was heavily damaged in the final battle, but she escaped with the retreating human fleet. Intelligence reports suggested she was involved in organizing refugee settlements. Apparently she was organizing more than settlements," the Emperor observed. A new alarm sounded in the chamber. Admiral Zixara rushed to check the incoming reports. "Majesty," he said with obvious shock, "we're receiving reports from the mining systems. Human ships have begun extracting Imperial prisoners from labor facilities. They're not attacking the facilities, just taking the humans and leaving. How many prisoners? Over 10,000 so far, Majesty. They appear to be targeting every location where human prisoners are held. The Emperor realized that the humans weren't waiting for the deadline to expire. They were already implementing their demands, one facility at a time. Can we stop them? He asked. Admiral Zixara studied the tactical display. We could try, Majesty. But they're operating across dozens of systems simultaneously. We don't have enough ships in position to intercept all of them. General Kolnith stepped closer to the Emperor. Majesty, we must act decisively. If we allow humans to dictate terms to the Empire, our authority will collapse. The Emperor looked around the chamber at his advisors. For the first time in his reign, he faced a situation where military force alone might not be the answer. 31 hours, he said quietly. We need to decide what the Empire values more, our pride or our survival. The conference room aboard the neutral trading station Harmony's Edge was filled with tension. Representatives from 12 different species watched as the most unlikely peace negotiation in galactic history took place. At one end of the long table sat Emperor Thaxamor of the Zephyrian Empire, his massive form draped in ceremonial robes. At the other end sat Admiral Elena Vasquez, recently promoted from her captain's rank, wearing a simple human military uniform. 3 months had passed since the human fleet's dramatic appearance in Empire space. 3 months of careful negotiations, technological demonstrations, and slowly growing respect between two species that had been bitter enemies. The terms of territorial restoration have been agreed upon, announced Mediator Kickstal, a representative from the neutral Centauri Federation. All human worlds occupied during the war will be returned to human control within 6 standard months. Emperor Thaxamor nodded slowly. The decision had not been easy. The Empire had never given up conquered territory voluntarily, but the humans had continued their demonstrations of capability throughout the negotiation period. They had shown they could disable Imperial infrastructure at will, extract prisoners from any facility, and appear anywhere in Empire space without warning. The prisoner exchange protocols are also finalized, the mediator continued. All human prisoners and slaves will be released immediately. In return, the Free Human Alliance will provide complete technical documentation for their defensive technologies. Admiral Vasquez spoke for the first time in an hour. We want to be clear about something. The technologies we're sharing are defensive in nature. Cloaking systems, electronic warfare capabilities, sensor jamming techniques. We're not providing weapons designs. General Kolneth, who had insisted on attending the negotiations, leaned forward aggressively. You expect us to believe humans will share military secrets with no guarantee of future cooperation? We expect you to understand that our goal was never conquest, Vasquez replied calmly. We wanted our people free and our worlds returned. Now that we have agreements on both points, we have no reason to continue hostilities. Emperor Thaxamor studied the human admiral carefully. Over the past 3 months, he had learned to respect her tactical intelligence and negotiating skills. She had consistently demonstrated that humans thought differently than any species the Empire had encountered. There is one more matter to discuss, the Emperor said. The mutual defense proposal. This was the most surprising development of the entire negotiation. After reviewing human capabilities, Imperial military analysts had reached a startling conclusion. The humans had developed technologies and tactics that would be extremely valuable for defending against external threats. Admiral Vasquez activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's outer rim. Our long-range sensors have detected concerning activity in the galactic core region. Ancient automated systems are showing signs of activation. If our analysis is correct, both our civilizations may face threats that require combined capabilities to handle. The Emperor had seen the same intelligence reports. Deep space monitoring stations had recorded energy signatures consistent with ancient warfare machines, awakening after millions of years of dormancy. Neither human nor Imperial technology alone might be sufficient to deal with such threats. The proposed alliance structure is unprecedented, Mediator Kickstal observed. 2 species that were recently at war, agreeing to combine their fleets for mutual defense. War teaches you about your enemy's weaknesses, Vasquez said, but it also teaches you about their strengths. The Empire has industrial capacity and organized military structure that humans lack. Humans have adaptability and innovative thinking that the Empire lacks. General Kolneth looked skeptical. What guarantee do we have that humans won't use shared technology against the Empire in the future? The same guarantee we have that the Empire won't use shared technology against humanity, Vasquez replied. Mutual benefit and mutual vulnerability. She activated another section of the display. The joint research projects we're proposing will require cooperation from both sides. Neither civilization will be able to complete the work alone. This creates a situation where betrayal becomes self-defeating. Emperor Thaxmore considered the proposal carefully. The Empire had always expanded through conquest and domination. The idea of partnership with a former enemy was completely foreign to Imperial culture. But the humans had proven that traditional approaches didn't always work. The technical integration challenges will be significant, Admiral Zixara observed. She had become the primary Imperial liaison for the negotiations. Human and Imperial systems use different design philosophies, which is exactly why the combination will be more effective than either approach alone, Vasquez said. Imperial systems are reliable and powerful. Human systems are flexible and innovative. Together they can accomplish things neither could do separately. The Emperor made his decision. The Zephyrian Empire agrees to the Mutual Defense Alliance, subject to the terms outlined in the agreement documents. Mediator Kixital activated the formal treaty display. Then we have reached a comprehensive agreement. Territorial restoration, prisoner exchange, technology sharing, and mutual defense alliance. This treaty will be known as the Harmony Accords. As the signing ceremony proceeded, Admiral Vasquez reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. 3 years ago, humanity had been a defeated species facing an uncertain future. Today they were equal partners in the galaxy's most powerful military alliance. The transformation hadn't been easy. Many humans still distrusted the Empire. Many Imperial citizens couldn't accept humans as equals, but the external threats they faced were forcing both species to adapt their thinking. Admiral, Emperor Thaxmore said as the formal ceremony concluded, "There is something I must ask. During our conflict, the Empire consistently underestimated human capabilities. How do we avoid making similar mistakes with future threats?" Vasquez smiled slightly. "By remembering that intelligence isn't the same as technology, and innovation isn't the same as resources. The galaxy is full of species that think differently than we do. The key is learning from those differences instead of trying to eliminate them." 6 weeks later, the first joint human-Imperial fleet departed for the Galactic core. The combined force included 30 human vessels and 40 Imperial ships, their crews working together to investigate the ancient threat that had emerged from deep space. Admiral Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, now serving as the flagship for the human contingent. Through the view screen she could see Imperial battleships flying in formation with human cruisers. The sight would have been unimaginable a year ago. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Put it through." The image of Emperor Thaxmore appeared on the screen. He was aboard his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Admiral Vextal visible in the background. "Admiral Vasquez," the Emperor said, "our combined sensor arrays have detected multiple contacts emerging from the galactic core. We estimate at least 200 ancient vessels, each larger than our biggest battleships." Vasquez studied the tactical data being transmitted to her ship. The ancient machines were massive and appeared to be armed with weapons technology that neither human nor Imperial scientists fully understood. "Any response to our communication attempts?" she asked. "None. They appear to be following some kind of program directive. Our xenoarchaeology teams believe they may be automated defense systems from a civilization that died out millions of years ago." Vasquez nodded. "Then we'll have to stop them the same way we solved our own conflict, by working together and learning from each other." She opened a channel to all ships in the combined fleet. "This is Admiral Vasquez to all vessels. We're about to face something that neither of our civilizations has encountered before. Imperial ships will provide heavy firepower and defensive coverage. Human ships will focus on tactical flexibility and electronic warfare. Remember, we're not competing with each other anymore. We're protecting the galaxy together." As the joint fleet moved toward the emerging threat, Vasquez realized that the war between humans and the Empire had ended in the best possible way, not with total victory for either side, but with both sides becoming stronger through cooperation. The ancient machines ahead represented a challenge that would test everything they had learned about working together. But for the first time since the war began, Admiral Vasquez felt confident that they would succeed. The galaxy was about to learn what humans and the Empire could accomplish when they fought on the same side.